This video is brought to you by you guys! All of you who voted for your favorite character of 2024. And thank you so much for doing so, as without you I literally couldn't make this video. That said, let's go ahead and get started. These are the top 10 most popular BBS characters of 2024, as chosen by you guys, the BBS community.
逃げ足は早いようだな。終わりだ。
Starting things out at number 10 is a character who actually wasn't featured in a top 10, except as an honorable mention, the unleashed version of Hallibell. This version of Hallibell has a really high SP as well as Frenzy at 1. She also got Berserker at 60%, and she inflicts 100% more damage to enemies who are not afflicted by a status ailment. She's also got Guard Break and Pierce Iron Skin, hit hidden enemies, she's completely immune to being burnt, and although she's a resource character with a resource link, she does have a strong attack recharge ability, allowing her to spam her attacks. Thanks to Havoc, they all have increased range with a Shape Shot Strong Attack 1, a Beam Shot Strong Attack 2, and a Beyond Full Screen Strong Attack 3. Overall, she's a really strong character, who I'm both surprised and really not surprised to see on this list, since on the one hand, she's not the strongest character to come out this year, but on the other hand, she is Hallibell, and people like Hallibell. Isn't that right, people?
生まれ変わったジャンボクはかっこいいかい?
Next up is Oetsu, who I'm not too surprised to see on here. We love the #1 Zanpakuto creator, and this one is overpowered, with a really high SP, Frenzy at 2, an ability to deal 140% more damage to non-ailment enemies, and the potential to get even stronger when his gauge is activated, which is often thanks to Gauge Rampage, since he gains 100% Berserker and another Frenzy, not to mention his strong attacks recharge a bit. People like spamming strong attacks. It's any character's bread and butter, and that Gauge ability plus the strong attack recharge ability let him spam away. Plus his attacks are really fun to spam, a Beyond Full Screen Strong Attack 3, a Lunge Move Strong Attack 2, and a Beam Shot Strong Attack 1, not to mention the bonus EX move, and the fact that he's got Long Stride and Sprinter at 2. Combine that with Marauder, and you have yourself one of the fastest characters in the game right now. And if I've learned anything over doing these lists the past several years, people really like their fast characters.
よく帰ってきた、氷蓮丸。ごぼう星にしてやれなくてすまなかったな。
You know what else people really like? Toshiro's. Toshiro is one of the most popular captains in the entire series, so I am not at all surprised to see him on this list. The amount of times I've seen people whose profile picture is a Toshiro is far more than I could count. So naturally, you make one who's canon and looks way cooler than all of the other forms, he's going to be a very popular character. I won't go too into detail with a lot of these since I already did that over the last week, but I will cover some of the more standout features, such as the double killer of no affiliation and Sternritter, as well as the disabler against Quincy's and no affiliation characters, plus the best soul trait in the game, a strong attack damage and strong attack recharge, and of course the absurd amount of damage potential. Berserker at 50%, a further increase of 40% if the enemies are afflicted with a status ailment, an extra 100% if that ailment happens to be frozen. If he caused the freeze, it's an extra 80% SP boost, and all of that is multiplied by 3 thanks to Frenzy at 2. They really went all out with this character, and I can't wait to see what they do when they remake him as an adult.
満開坂島横島八方塞がりしまいや。
Next up we have Shinji, who I'm also not too surprised to see on here. Shinji has always been very popular, and this one is really strong, with a high SP, Berserker at 50%, Frenzy at 2, Guard Break, Disabler against Soul Reapers, the ability to inflict both confusion and weakening on all of his attacks, and able to deal 60% more damage to confused enemies. Plus, if he's the one that inflicted a status ailment, his SP shoots up by 120%. Vizards have always been very unique characters in the game, since aside from some Aizens and the occasional Kaname, they're pretty much the only hollow characters. Shinji, as the leader of the Vizards, and arguably the most popular aside from Ichigo, if you consider him one, does have the most variations in this game. I personally hope to see some of the others get more representation, but admittingly it is really cool to see whenever they make another Captain Shinji, especially one who uses his Bankai. That said, I do wish this one would have come out after Gelle, since I'm sure they would have given him the ability to inflict domination. And speaking of which, next up is Gelle, who also came as no surprise. People really seem to like this character, and I can't blame them. Anytime we get a character that has the ability to inflict a new status element, I'm always very intrigued. I do think the dominated status element will be exclusive to some characters and a lot of seasonal characters, but hopefully it won't go the route of slowing confusion, where we rarely see it, even though I did just talk about confusion. But back to this character, Gelle has a really high SP, as well as Berserker at 60%, Frenzy at 2, an ability for all tech characters to inflict 30% more damage to enemies afflicted with a status element, and 100% more damage against dominated enemies. Plus, there's a whole 80% SP boost. You know, I've been meaning to do this myself, I just haven't really had the time, but has anyone actually tried using this character in PvP? Unless you can resist all status elements, there is no immunity against domination. And since debilitator's at 7 seconds, bringing the total duration to 9 seconds, it's effectively one of the stickiest status elements. I'm personally curious to see how it does.
挽回シャタツからがらしがらみの辻
Next up is Senjumaru, a character with a high SP, Frenzy at 2, 3 in Guild Quest, and all of the other Guild Quest abilities. Again, I'm not going super in depth in this video, since I already covered a lot of these characters, it's just a popularity contest, and with it being the first week of school, I have a lot of stuff to do before the end of tomorrow. Anyway, she does have Berserker at 40%, Marauder, Poise, and Poise Break, 2 links of strong attack recharge and full stamina damage, a Captain Killer Plus and Disabler against all Soul Reapers, Bombardment and Weakened Defense, and all of her attacks can inflict some sort of status element plus. Her normal attack can inflict Burn, her strong attack 1 is a hybrid vortex move that can inflict freeze, her strong attack 2 is a near full screen strong attack that can inflict paralysis, her strong attack 3 is beyond full screen and can inflict laceration, and her special and EX move can inflict drain. That EX move is also a boost move that boosts the party's attack, defense, and focus by 40% for 15 seconds. There's also a debuff move that debuffs the enemy's attack, defense, and focus for 40% for 15 seconds. New characters tend to be super popular, and it certainly helps when they're this good, so I'm not at all surprised to see her on this list.
飲め野ざらし俺に切れねえものはねえ
Other characters that tend to be super popular are anniversary characters, and when one of them is one of the most popular captains in the whole series, you can bet they're gonna be on this list. Kenny has a ridiculously high SP, as well as Frenzy at 3, Berserker at 100%, has an Espada plus Killer and Disabler against the Ronkars, has Poise, Poise Break, can inflict debilitating laceration and weakening with all of his attacks, gains an 80% SP boost if he does, has Innervator and Lacerator, and has some ridiculously good attacks. It's a charge move that does initial damage while it's charging, and then more damage once you release it. Then there's his EX move. It's the only one of its kind so far, and when he uses it, not only does it do damage, but it also increases his SP by 100%. Though it doesn't last long, so use it wisely. He can spam all of these attacks except for his EX move, thanks to his strong attack recharge link of 14%, and he's completely immune to being weakened. You know, it only just occurred to me, even though I talked about him in depth yesterday, that we still have to get the Bankai version of Kenny again. I can't imagine they'll make him a transform character since they've kind of stopped doing that, so I can't wait to see what they do with him. I just really hope they don't make him a PvP character.
よく見るがいい。これは視界。ただの千本桜だ。
Next up is yet another popular captain, Byakuya, who I'm really glad made it on this list, because I really wanted to talk about something that I didn't bring up when actually talking about him in the top 10. But first, let's talk about what he can do. He has a really high SP, as well as Berserker at 60%, Frenzy at 2, can inflict debilitating weakening and paralysis on all of his attacks, and is extremely likely to do so against humans, gains an SP boost if he does, and deals an additional 30 damage, plus an extra 40% of his health is full. He's got a Beam Shot Strong Attack 1, a Near Full Screen Strong Attack 2, and a Beyond Full Screen Strong Attack 3, plus there's his EX move, and that's what I really wanted to talk about. I know I've mentioned this before, but I really don't like when the Strong Attack 2 is either a barrier move, a boost move, a heal move, a debuff move, or anything like that on a high SP character. It's a slightly different story when they have the full stamina Strong Attack recharge ability and an ability to actively heal themselves, but when they don't, it just kind of gets in the way since you have to wait for that Strong Attack to recharge. I'd much rather it be on the third Strong Attack slot, and although some characters do have that, it still kind of feels like it slows the character down, which is why a character like Byakuya is such a breath of fresh air. He does have a barrier move in the form of his EX move, but because all EX moves take 60 seconds to cool down anyway, it just feels like a bonus. It doesn't get in the way at all, plus it provides 5 barriers without the need of multi-barrier, and it lasts 30 seconds instead of the usual 20, to make up for the long recharge time, which I think is a great solution to my issue with all this. That's not to say that those other characters are not good, because they are, it's just my personal preference of how I prefer to play the game. Senjumaru also has this with her boost debuff EX move, but I feel like barrier moves in particular are a lot more in your face about this, so I wanted to talk about it with Byakuya. Anyway, I'm sorry I went on a tangent about it, but it is one of the reasons I really like this character. That and his design. I'm not sure if that's the reason other people selected him to be on this list, but I'm really glad he made it as far as number 3.
想像する力は単純に倍だ。なすすべがないってこういうことさ。
Next up is a character who I knew was gonna end up on this list, but I did not know he was gonna be number 2, the 9th anniversary version of Grammy. Now I know people really like Grammy. I don't know why, I just know they do. I can't tell you why they like this character specifically though. He's insanely strong, with a really high SP, Berserker at 50%, Frenzy at 3, Quincy strong attack damage up by 20%, Quincy damage to ailment affected enemies up by 30%, both a strong attack damage and strong attack recharge link, a Hollow Killer Plus, as well as Disabler against Hollows, the ability to dodge 50% of all Hollow damage, Sharpshooter, Bombardment, Weaken Defense, not only complete status immunity but straight up ailment reversal, which heals him, a boost and debuff EX move, which along with the rest of his attacks can inflict debilitating paralysis and drain, and if he does, he gets an 80% SP boost, and some really good strong attacks with the Beam Shot Strong Attack 1, a Seeking Vortex move Strong Attack 2, and a Beyond Full Screen Strong Attack 3. This guy has it all. People often select their strongest character as their favorite character, and I'm sure he tops a lot of people's lists, so again, I'm not surprised to see him on here. But I still want to know why Grammy is so popular. Is it the hoodie? Finally, at number 1, and to no one's surprise, is the newest 1000-year Blood War version of Ichigo, with just over 30% of the total votes. And I'm honestly not surprised. Not only because strength equals popular, and this guy definitely has strength, but also he is the protagonist of the whole series. And I'd say among protagonists of series, he does a very good job at being very likable. So naturally you combine that with one of the strongest characters in the entire game, and you have yourself the most popular character of 2024. With a really high SP, Berserker at 60%, Frenzy at 3, a boosted strong attack recharge link, Disabler against Quincy's, an SP boost of 80% if he inflicts weakening, which all of his attacks can do, weakening plus I might add, poise and poise break, complete status immunity, weaken defense, and an EX move that's similar to Kenny's, who literally at the time of recording that, I thought was the only one who could do it, but also boosts his SP by 100%. Plus he's one of those characters that gets stronger, which I personally love. At 20% enemies defeated, his melee damage goes up by 20%, after 40, the entire party gets a strong attack recharge of 15%, after 60, he gets devastation at 60, and after 80 he gets a use of a special move. Combine this with strong attacks whose range all go beyond full screen, along with long stride and sprinter at 2, and you have yourself one of the fastest characters in the whole game. I have no doubt we'll continue to get 1000-year Blood War versions of Ichigo, and I'm sure we'll see a season or 2 along the way. But personally, I'm hoping for a remake of Dangai Ichigo, not Mugetsu, as well as hopefully an actual full-bring Ichigo, who they can do in one of 3 ways, and we've seen none of them. Thank you guys so much for watching and voting. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Do like and subscribe, and stay tuned for some more top 10 lists.